Well, good morning, everybody. And as we kind of watch some of the satellite imagery from sunrise this morning, I'm kind of rocking back and forth over the day-night line that you see right here. We can see the remnants of some of the storms that did come out of Colorado, hit part of Nebraska and Kansas, delivering some locally heavy rain and spreading some cloud cover over the central Corn Belt. But a lot of our heaviest rain was down here in parts of Texas last night. As I just go backward in time, you can see some of those larger storms in place down here, delivering some very heavy rainfall. But I would like to take you back to last evening when those storms were kind of popping in these two areas as the big front kind of cleared the East Coast. I want you to maybe focus now on the West Coast because we can see quite a bit of the wildfire smoke we talked about in yesterday's report kind of pushing through parts of the Pacific Northwest. And that's going to be kind of a big theme of our forecast here. It's just the heat that's going to be coming in and staying into the Northwest as this larger ridge really develops and stays there. But a quick look back over the last 48 hours of total accumulated precipitation. These were the storms that left 2 days ago, and that front cleared. And since then, we've seen some very heavy rain down in parts of Texas. And here were the storms from last night. So it kind of gives us just a picture on some of the recent precipitation. Now, what I'm really watching carefully is this, okay? I've parked this out here on Monday, 7 p.m. And the European model in its latest forecast has now developed a cutoff low. It's sitting right here. It's a closed low. You can see the closed contour there. And where it comes from, let me take you back there and show you how we got here, is this large ridge is open in the west right now. And we see a trough that sweeps through parts of the Hudson Bay. We see another trough that enters into the Pacific Northwest this Saturday. And we're going to have to watch out for this for the potential for some storms possibly coming in here. Isolated, but some storms. Now, what's interesting about that is that when that shortwave gets over the top of the ridge, it seems to interact with a downstream feature that's sitting over Wisconsin. And this is now Sunday afternoon. And the two features kind of seem to combine, maybe orbit one another to develop this cutoff low. Now you're probably wondering why I'm going on so much about it. What's the significance of seeing that much spin in the atmosphere? Well, it's not in the US model, the GFS. That ridge kind of pushes that trough to the north, and it just kind of skirts along the north there. I was talking about that feature right here, watch. See it going back and forth, and therefore the GFS isn't going to resolve that. And the difference here is that the European model, with that cutoff low developing here, draws in a whole lot of that Gulf moisture that's been sitting over the Gulf into the eastern Corn Belt. And we're about at a point where we don't want this rain in this area. We need things to dry down so we can get to harvest very quickly. And this has now shown up quite a bit of rain. But this is the European solution, and here's the GFS. I'll just look here at Illinois, Indiana, just as an example. The European model is very wet. The GFS is not. And so I do make a product that compares them, and that's what you're looking at here. So everywhere that you see the blue and green, that's where the European model is wetter, and the GFS where it is drier. And so we can really see a substantial difference here. Now I'll tell you what's going down here in Texas in just a few moments, because the difference in Texas here and here in the Baja is an important difference to see between the two models. But before I go any further, I do want to show you, let's come back and look at this. Oops. The end of the model runs continue to favor a more disruptive trough coming through right here around maybe the 8th, 9th, and 10th. And if that sweeps through like this, through the the northwest parts of the plains, getting into the Canadian prairie, this will do a lot to initiate the potential advection or movement of a lot of moisture and possibly initiate a pretty large storm system. So I'm still keeping an eye out on that. It is in both models, by the way. If you just get out there, see this is what the GFS is doing around the 9th. So I just want to keep you all aware of that one feature that we're watching pretty carefully. But this is what else has kind of got my attention today. Let's look at the background image first. Here you are, this is Mexico, and there is a tropical system that we're keeping an eye on here. And when we split apart the ensemble forecast runs, there is most of them agreeing on the fact that the system should go out to open ocean. But some of the ensemble runs, including today's European model, the operational run, want to bring that moisture right back across Mexico and dump it into Texas. And there are some hints that the GFS could follow that. So I'm just going to tell folks in Texas, we've had already the heavy rains, which ended, just an historic drought. And now we're seeing more of that coming through. So I overlaid here what we are noticing with the latest trends in the models on a 15-day time period. So again, we're mostly drying through here. We do have a chance at some storms that could roll right in through here over the weekend on a weak frontal boundary, Friday into Saturday. But other than that, the action's all down south. But remember, this moisture return at the end of this weekend, that is primarily a European model feature with that cutoff low showing up in place here. But I want to be watching this very, very carefully as we go forward. Now, into the Atlantic, we are keeping our eye on 3 systems, including the newly named Tropical Depression number 5. But in each case, there is no evidence at this point that either of these, when they do develop or one that has developed, to come to the United States. So let's keep that kind of important bit of information going there as well. So we look at the next 2 weeks. We've discussed week 1, okay? So we have the storm system rolling through here. That drags the front through, giving it chances of storms on Friday into Saturday there. But then most of this moisture is coming early next week as that cutoff low develops, and that is purely a European model feature right now. In my in-depth report tonight, we're going to look at the latest updates of this to see if anything changed. And over here on the right, we have the new week 2 precipitation anomalies. And again, the thing I'm watching for here is on the 8th and 9th and 10th to see a deeper trough come in, possibly initiating a larger low pressure system somewhere in this vicinity that could be just disruptive and deliver storms and possibly some heavier rainfall. So there's some question marks going into week 2. On the temperature side of this, we are still seeing widespread excessive heat warnings and heat advisories. We do have in 3 different places as well red flag warnings stretching through here. And that's because the temperatures across the west are going to remain quite hot. Now, you're going to see pretty consistent hundreds throughout the California Central Valley, upper 90s, lower 100s in the Pacific Northwest. But today's scorcher that's here in the northern plains, watch this. So go from Thursday into Friday, that first cold front comes through. It pushes the warmth farther here into the western Corn Belt, while the northwest stays quite hot. And then that heat gets pushed farther east as the cold front advances on Saturday. But we very quickly replace the cooler air with the heat from the northwest coming in here. And by the way, this whole time period, Texas stays cool under cloud cover and daily chances of rain. So that's Sunday's high temperatures, getting into Monday and Tuesday. So see the heat rebuilding under that ridge. So a lot of uncertainty still here in the models as we play forward through our next week in terms of temperatures and precipitation. This could be very different in this area if that cloud cover sets up with that heavier rainfall that the European model is kind of looking at here. If we stretch this out over the next 15 days, I'm just going to continue with the narrative here that while this heat pushes from the west into the Midwest, into the Canadian prairie, while it could break down going out there past the 8th, 9th, and 10th, I don't yet see any major indicators of such cold air that we will be talking about an early frost. There's going to be some cooler air coming in behind this, but through the middle of the month, I don't see an early frost event yet. So I just want to be clear on that. If you get a chance to read the report today, I'm going over the new long-range updates for September. This is the European outlook. This is what the new Climate Prediction Center data suggests, and this is what history would tell us given that we have a La Nina. I'm going to cover all 3 of these things, again, the history, the CPC forecast, and the European model in tonight's in-depth report when we get the new data from the European model. So looking forward to that. I will talk to you again in the morning. Thanks.